Okay, live from Odessa, Ukraine. This is Josh Friedman on the Black Sea shore, joined by Ukrainian National Guard Captain Nick Demydiuk.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
There you are, Nick. We've been trying to get oriented for quite some time here. I don't think I've ever had more difficulties than this with setting up a YouTube stream, and it's had nothing to do with the fact that there's a war going on in this country. I am going to try to share this stream. Okay, we have someone tuned in. For the one person who is now tuned into this broadcast, can you see us? Can you hear us? And are we in?
Yeah, the light.
Are we in horizontal or landscape mode? Hey, BC 170. Can you see us? Can you hear us? We've been having a lot of difficulty getting this going. Hey, Ray Love, because unlike when I would stream in the past. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, perfect. Art is saying that we're in landscape. So that was the difficulty. I have never before had so much difficulty setting up a stream. Again, this has got nothing to do with us being in a country with a war going on. It has to do with this new YouTube horizontal versus vertical feature that has driven me absolutely crazy. But nonetheless, I'm glad to see that we're live. I will try to adjust the picture somewhat so we have somewhat better lighting. The sun was not down when we tried to start this. Unfortunately, now it is down. I'll give you really quickly just a glimpse at the Black Sea here. I could flip it around. I don't know how well you could see it because it's dark, but this is the Black Sea. We're on the Black Sea shore here in Odessa. And enough of that for now. Some other time during the day I can show you the sea. Anyway, for this broadcast, as it is titled, the main point is to answer your questions, or for Nick to answer your questions. Maybe I might answer a couple or a few if they're directed at me, but I got to get the live chat feature going on the phone.
I'll try to get some more light for us, I guess.
Yeah, if you could, I'm going to try to crank up the light on my computer and also try to get this stream
I guess the
monitored from the... All right, that lighting's a little better now.
Yeah, I guess at least you can see our faces now. Right?
Okay, so I'm going to try to monitor the live chat throughout this, see if I can get pulled up on the computer as well. It looks like I'm offline on the computer. We've got several people tuned in. Okay, hi Ray, hi BC 117Q, hi Arts, Romika, hello. Supplanter, hey from Wyoming. Okay, first question. How long will Zelensky stay in power?
Well, until the martial law is over, as written in the Ukrainian constitution. As long as the martial law is over, there will be an election. Simple as that.
You and I am aware, were here when Zelensky, not here in Odessa, but here in Ukraine, when Zelensky was elected. We were together in Kiev.
That's right.
At the time, that night. That was a very interesting night. Maybe we'll touch on that briefly. I was actually here in Odessa when Zelensky's Servant of the People Party won control of the parliament. So, in a sense, I was also here in Odessa when Zelensky or his party was chosen to rule Ukraine. But if you follow and this is probably what the commenter is implying, if you follow the typical election cycle, it's 5-year presidential terms in Ukraine, right? So theoretically, there should have been an election, but there's not because there's martial law. A lot of people have been making the allegation, critics of Ukraine have been making the allegation that because there was no election after Zelensky's 5-year term, that indicates that Ukraine is not a democracy or is not being very democratic. What would your response be to that for the critics?
Well, I would say that as long as the martial law goes, and given Zelensky was elected by landslide victory, and the recent polls say that he's still rather popular, so the overall rating of Zelensky is above 65%. If I'm still sure, it's still a bit down because there were some setbacks with some of the governmental decisions, but overall Zelensky is still popular. He's still supported by the vast majority of people, so he's legitimate in all senses, in sense of the procedure and in sense of the people support. So it's not a problem at all. So as long as the martial law is over, there will definitely be in, the elections, and I guess they also be not only by the demand of the Ukrainian people, but also by the demand of let's say our foreign supporters. I mean, like foreign like European institutions, etc. They will definitely make some statements on that. So it's really not. It's not really a big chance for Zelensky to like stay at power forever. So it's not like that.
Is there much of a demand for new elections among Ukrainians?
Not at the moment, no. I would say it's not like a top question, top issue for now.
Okay, I requested questions on Twitter.
There was some commentary.
We've got I'm having trouble with my internet connection on the computer right now, but I've got questions jotted down on a second phone also, and the live questions in the chat. We'll do our best to address them. Let's see what's coming in right now. Are we answered? How long will Zelensky? Are you worried that Odessa will be droned? Well, and then maybe I'll respond to that also. You first.
Well, Odessa is being droned like every single night, but not the city itself, but rather the region. So I would say that the city itself is so far so good. I mean, in terms of drones, I will say. So there are some ballistic missile strikes like here and there, but it's not like every day, at least for now.
Well, there are definitely missile strikes here. Not too long after I arrived, there was a missile strike not too far away from me, and I saw some of the smoke after the impact. And I have driven around town and seen at least several, maybe more than several structures that have been hit in Odessa, but at the same time, Odessa is somewhat of a haven for Ukrainians from other cities closer to the front to go to or relocate to, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And in the past, when I haven't been here, I have spoken with a friend or two who've discussed the drones coming in, but I guess the drones coming into Odessa haven't been so frequent. Maybe there were certain times when they were noticeable.
Yeah, so that's correct. I would say it's not a big threat, at least like in last like week, 2 weeks. I mean, I'm talking about the city itself. So I'm not talking about the whole region, because the region is droned like every single night. But the city itself is rather safe in terms of drones, but the missiles are a bigger threat for that.
We should establish, for those who haven't seen the prior live stream we did or interview we did, which are both on my YouTube channel, you, Nick, are based in Chernihiv.
Yeah, that's correct.
In the northern part of Ukraine.
Yes.
Odessa's in the southern part of Ukraine. Right now you're off duty. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, I am on vacation now, so therefore I still can have a chat with you all.
Which is an opportune time for me to visit and for us to have this little Q&A. I was last in Ukraine in December 2022, and back then we did a live stream from Chernihiv, where you are based in the National Guard, and we also did an interview, or I interviewed you about the situation in Chernihiv back then and some of the destruction that took place in the city early on in the war. Perchance I could visit again sometime in the near future, but at the moment we are in Odessa, and I'm going to get to some of the questions that were asked
Yes,
of
please.
me, more like directed, actually they're directed at Ukrainians. And these are questions I gathered from social media prior to this stream. The first question was, if Ukrainians know that the war will last more than 5 years, will they emigrate or wait for victory however long the war would be? And that's not directed specifically to you, that's directed to Ukrainians as a whole.
Well, I think that
or Ukrainians in general.
I think that some people would emigrate, because, but more specifically, women and children, because let's say it broadly, because men are not allowed to leave the country due to by law. So it's, I mean, like, legally, okay. So yeah, so some people would immigrate, but many people would stay as well. But I think that with duration of time and given the conditions here in Ukraine, more people would leave. So that's inevitable. Yeah.
I believe there was a follow-up to that, which was the question was coming from someone who was wondering if the people who are there love Ukraine so much, or are they worried about leaving and settling in another country? I think you somewhat already answered.
Could you please?
To what extent do Ukrainians have concerns about settling in other countries? And at the same time, the question, the person's also asking, do Ukrainians love Ukraine so much that they're willing to stay?
I would say that many Ukrainians do love Ukraine, yes. And I can tell you that many people who are abroad right now, they say that they will return, will come back as soon as possible, as long as it's safe or the war is over, etc. Because many people, like, they are not really used to living here, but living there. But of course, some people settled there, but not all of them. Not all of them even want to start with. So I think that there will be some kind of like exchange in the migration flows, and some people will come back, and some people will leave probably forever.
Since I've been back here, I've heard some people express concern that once the war ends, there could be an exodus of men because they feel like they've been locked up, per se. And I guess this is it. No, it's not a power cut, or is it a power cut?
I don't know. I guess it just the electricity. Well, but still,
I get. We'll get to the power situation momentarily. Do you feel like you're cooped up here? You're in the military. You can't leave. I don't know if you want to get into your personal sentiments on that, but I think we do have a power cut. No, or did they just turn off? They just turn off their generator. We already had a power cut. We'll get to the power situation, and we'll address all your questions coming in the chat. Do you want to respond? Might there be an exodus of Ukrainian men after the war ends?
I don't know. Only time will tell. It's more of speculation. So I don't really know. And when I don't know something, I just say that direct, openly, and admit it. So I don't know.
All right, let's look at the chat.
Yeah,
sorry, I got to pull this up on the phone as opposed to on the computer. I'm having some technical difficulties on the computer.
I can read it on my phone, by the way.
Yeah, that would be even better if we could read it on your phone. I've got another phone with other questions. Let's see. Very strong rumor of peace deal on the table. That's a comment, but we could pose that as a question. Let me try to scroll back. We're getting a lot of comments. All right, so we already worried about Odessa being droned. There will be a coup first. He's
daft. I don't know. No one knows, so it's really like all speculation. I don't know. Well,
I guess that's in response to the discussion
Uh,
about
Crimean-
presidential elections.
Yeah, Crimean Bridge. I think that it's more was about Zelensky, but I'm not sure. It's like rumors and stuff. Crimean Bridge is called a huge target here in the U.S. I think it sort of is, but I don't know. I mean, like it, it, it may be struck in any point in the future, but no one knows.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into the next question that I received prior to the broadcast, which again, this is directed at Ukrainians in general, so you can answer it in terms of both your personal sentiments and best you can representing Ukrainians in general, or either or. Do you actually care who controls Crimea?
I do. I do.
You want to speak to the
I
necessity in your mind of
think
retaking Crimea?
I would say I don't really like to play the analogy game all the time, so like showing some examples. But let's say that I don't know what country this person who asked this is from, but let's assume it's like US, or you can like any other country. Okay, so like, but let be the US. Let's say the US got lost some territories in a similar way, like somewhere in the south, let's say, or Midwest. Everyone hates the Midwest in the US, from what I know. So let's say that northern Midwestern states were occupied, well, not necessarily occupied, but they were annexed to let's say, Canada in such a way, and Canada recognized its own very territory. So what do you think? How many Americans gonna just like cope with it and deal with it and forget about it? That's pretty much makes the point. And if you live in country in any European country, I guess the sentiment is even stronger, because given how often the territory dispute was the reason for wars in the history, like the 18th, 19th century, and basically this war we're having today is more like 18th, 19th style, but only with the more genocidal format rather than the 17th, 18th, 19th century. But you can still understand it. So I think that's pretty much explains it.
What would you say are the sentiments around Ukraine in general about Crimea? Does the war need to go on until Ukraine takes back Crimea? How important is Crimea at this point to Ukrainians? Can you speak to the general sentiments nationwide?
Well, first of all, Crimea is right now. Crimea is, control of the Crimean territory is critical, because Odessa is literally struck by missiles from Crimea. And you have to understand that ballistic missiles flies like for 5 minutes. If you don't have enough time, and those missiles are pretty accurate, to be honest. And if you don't have enough time to take cover, you'll be in trouble. And if missiles falls somewhere where you at, you'll be in trouble. So even by this point, it matters who controls the Crimean Peninsula. Okay, and but even in general, well, Ukrainians do want this, but they do want for Crimea back. Well, just because, first of all, because it's fair, I guess, and everything that happened in 2014 was illegal by both the let's say international laws, by Russian laws, by the way, by the Russian constitution, by the way, and of course by the Ukrainian constitution. It happened just because Putin wanted, and no one was about to oppose him like everywhere. So so there you go.
Speaking to the logistics a little bit, Odessa is the key port in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
There's been havoc wreaked at the port here, correct? I mean, there's been to some extent. To some extent, but from what I've seen, the port is working. The ships are being loaded and offloaded. So yeah. Okay, maybe that is a mischaracterization on my part. The port has been struck multiple times.
That's correct.
And infrastructure, and even the iconic hotel beside the port was struck. Mm-hmm. Right? I've been over there. I've driven by. I should have looked at it. So are those missiles coming in from Crimea that are hitting the port here?
Most of the time, yes. Sometimes there are missiles launched from the air. Okay, so that's either the Crimea region or from the air.
Okay, next question.
Well, I see many questions about the COVID and jobs. Ukrainians were not really willing to take the jobs, to be honest, and that's what I can say. That many people didn't take it, and when it had been all over, people like side with the reliefs because it's much easier. And well, I mean, now in the military it's not required, so it's all like the bygone era already. So we're not about the 2020 and 2021. Then the military, I don't know. I think I have to ask about it from my colleagues, but now we are not required to. And yeah,
I'll comment very briefly on that. I've asked maybe several people, not that many. It seems split about who took the COVID vaccine and who didn't. And I will say make one other point about that, which is I traveled a lot during COVID, and it was quite difficult. At times, I came here in March 2022, shortly after the start of the war. It was quite clear upon arrival that at that point, COVID was irrelevant here. There was an existential fight going on. There were much bigger priorities than COVID once Russia launched its February 2022 invasion. That's all I have to say about that, at least for now. We'll get to these comments.
Yeah, I see many interesting questions in the chat. We'll definitely come to the chat, and I'll have a look at all of them and try to react to all of them.
Okay,
give the comment.
Maybe we switch back and forth between the social media questions and the chat.
I'll try.
The next question I have jotted down is about Ukrainians and to what extent Ukrainians trust their government. The person asked, I would like to know if Ukrainians trust their government. I have a Ukrainian friend who said no, but maybe that changed.
Do you mean like all the time or at this very moment?
I think they mean general trust for the government, and to what extent that has changed or not during the
in general, if we talk about general, like prior to the invasion, well, generally no. There's like in every underdeveloped country, I mean, like in terms of democracy and in terms of the republic, the trust to the political and public institutions has always been very low. Well, after the war started, well, it somewhat increased, especially the support of the army has always been like very high, so people always trusted the army, and right now the support of the army is overwhelming. I would say that given Zelensky is still very popular, and he was popular like several years ago too when he won the election. So I would say that Zelensky as a person is still very trusted as general, given his recent ratings. Okay, they are not like that overwhelming like several years ago, but it still has more than 60% trust and support. So it's still significant given the Ukrainian reality. So in Ukrainian reality, like in any country, I guess politicians lose their preference by the public during their tenure in the office. But in general, no. In general, Ukrainians were not really supportive of the political and public institutions. I would say that some of that is still relevant today. So I would say that the parliament is not really trusted that much. So yeah.
I'll make one very quick comment on that. From my years of coming here, I've seen a widespread throw the bums out mentality. I guess that's more of an American phrase. I think that's basically what brought Zelensky to power in 2019. This attitude of people being pissed off, and let's get rid of the current cast of characters who are running it. Throw the bums out.
Mhm.
All right. I've got the chat open on the computer, which makes it a little easier to read. I see lots of comments and questions.
Let's go through through those. I can tell.
If you could
put
hold
it-
that, that
yes.
would make it a little easier.
If I yeah, I can use it. I'm not too used to MacBooks, so but I'm doing fine. Yeah.
We've already addressed how long will Zelensky stay in power. We've addressed, and I've got more questions.
Yeah, it's
jotted down from
yeah,
people on
Greece
social
from
media.
Wyoming. Yeah, Wyoming is a nice place to live. I guess it's somewhat it may be somewhat deserted, but I like it. Well, the Yellowstone's nearby, so it's fine. Well,
I've visited Wyoming.
Crimean
Definitely haven't
Beach.
lived there though.
We
spoke about Crimea.
Well, the dirty bomb Donetsk. I don't know where you even learn about it. So Donetsk is like has some regular missile, pretty accurate. I have to admit, missile strikes by the Ukrainian military. So everything. So it's definitely not dirty bombs. I don't even know where it comes from, really. Well, I get this guy called Art Vandalai, like says like he's critical. So basically, he's implying that it's Ukrainians to blame about those people who died on that beach in the Crimea. But in reality, even Russian propagandists said that even Russian pundits on some of the live stream, I mean, like not mainstream pundits, but like propagandists of lower tiers, they acknowledged it was, and even the Minister of Defense of Russia acknowledged it was the anti-missile, which just missed the this ATACMS missile and exploded into the air, and all the shrapnel just fell to the ground. Fell to the ground because when the anti-missile hits nothing, it explodes. It self-destructs. So that's basically what happened. Nothing like no conspiracy theories here. It's very simple over there. Well, peace deal on the table. Well, there are rumors, there are speculations, but I guess I don't really have no more than you, so I guess it's nothing that I can really tell you that. But I would say that any single peace deal at this point, should it happen, because I'm not sure. Well, everyone wants to live in peace, but we don't know if Putin agrees to any specifics about the peace deal. But I would say that any peace deal is just a hold for the war, but not a complete stop.
Let me take this.
Yeah.
Next question coming from one that was submitted.
I can hold it. It's no problem. You're busy
what
already
was
holding
submitted
the
on
device.
social media. This is from a friend of mine who is an Orthodox deacon in the United States. His name is Heno Elias. I've done an interview or live stream with him on my channel before. And he is asking about the status of apolitical Orthodox Christians. He asks, what is the status of apolitical Orthodox Christians' access to worshiping in their own institutions? And he's asking about that in Ukraine.
You know, I cannot really say there are many apolitical people now. Because the situation is because Ukraine is in crisis and it requires some reaction from whatever public it is. So I literally can say, well, like several years ago, I could say that many people were apolitical because they are generally like not trusting the government, not trusting the institutions, not like trusting anyone. So they were pretty much apolitical. So well, I know what you're implying, but I would say that. I think this requires a very special report on the context. What is the Orthodox? What is the situation with the Orthodox Church in Ukraine? It's not like something that I can explain in like 2 minutes or 5 minutes. It requires separate research. But yeah. So
to interject really quickly, I actually interviewed a leader of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And again, this is a complicated issue. Before the Ukrainian Church broke away from the Moscow Patriarchate, I believe his name is Yevstrati Zoria.
Yes.
Yeah, I interviewed him years ago. I don't know, 7 years ago or something. But that was not that was not done in a video, although I think I have an audio recording of it, but there's a written form of that interview that maybe I could find.
You'll try to find because
It was on the Bulgaria Analytica site.
Mhm.
But I guess just really briefly to touch on that, there was serious politicization of the Orthodox Church, and the argument from the Ukrainian church that broke away from the Moscow run one was exactly that the church was essentially being used as an instrument of the Kremlin, that there was, going back years, and you could probably speak to it better than me, the allegations were that within the church there was a pushing of the Russian narrative about everything from the events of 2013 and 2014 on.
There are basically yeah. So they are. Could you please like switch this live chat here off, and we can read it here because it really distracts me from. Well, I would say that it's definitely requires some knowledge of the context, and to put it really briefly, you have to understand that the Russian Orthodox Church is more than just a church. Okay, so it's much more than the religion institution. So it's it takes like literally centuries ago in that how that like the religious institution became a state institution in Russia. It's not a big secret that there are plenty of works written on this matter, even in English, and it's not a big secret for anyone who studies the religion studies. So it's like that. So therefore, they were pushing, well, basically all the Russian messages, like starting from which that Ukrainians don't exist. So there are no Ukrainians as such. So I think that's pretty much it, and all just comes like.
But for the sake of the question, can Orthodox Christians worship freely in Ukraine, or do they have to essentially support the Ukrainian national identity and narratives in order to take part in Orthodox Church activities here?
I would say that the Orthodox Church of I mean like local churches, they changed the eparchial affiliations. I'm sorry if I'm not like using the correct terms, because I'm not really proficient in religion studies, but it's I mean like many churches like switching the affiliation, and even those and many churches still hasn't, and I guess even though they hasn't, people still have an opportunity to come and worship there without any real problems. Well, so that's pretty much it. But I do admit that the process is not really complicated and really not very simple.
Maybe this is something that I could get deeper into with Heno Elias when I'm back in his neck of the woods, which I believe is still Southern California. Maybe I could track down Yevstrati Zoria if he's still in Kiev. Well, but let's carry on. Let's carry on with other questions. But check out.
Just to finish up for this question, I would say that it's just the other sign of of lack of the information coming from Ukrainian source. I'm not saying that there can be some kind of state source or whatever. Just the overall topic is not very well covered in foreign languages in general. So there are plenty of materials in Russian and Ukrainian, but very few, if any, materials in English. So that's the biggest problem. So people just don't even see any kind of picture. And of course, Moscow is trying to promote their narratives about the Orthodox Church in Ukraine. So therefore, it's, Ukraine is really outnumbered here. It is some kind of an issue, but it's something that requires some action.
I just dropped a link in the chat to Deacon Heno Elias's YouTube channel. He's got a podcast and show called The Philosophy of Art and Science. That's his channel. If you're interested, check it out. He's got lots of very interesting interviews, gets into geopolitics, arts, sciences, obviously the Orthodox Church, and a whole lot more. And hopefully Henok and I can meet up sometime again in the near future. All right, let's get back to other questions. Is there one in the chat that you like? If not, I've got another one queued up.
Well, it's not a matter of liking or disliking. I'm trying to react to everything.
That you would like to react to.
That's my point for today's meeting.
I've got one that's going to get a reaction if you're ready for it.
Well,
let's go to this one.
I'll try to finish about the foreign countries, because I've seen it. Like the time delusional that many people won't return. I don't know. Even if they don't, they don't. That's the way it is. So I'm not saying that everyone should return or everyone should leave. Well, as long as there's an opportunity, and of course, well, some part of the society cannot leave right now, but those who want, they do leave, and those who want, they return, and we'll see the what happens after the war. So
okay, quick hitter.
Yes.
This is addressed to Ukrainians, but you can answer it personally. You could also try to present the sentiments of Ukrainians in general. Do you really like to be part of NATO? Like, would you really like to be part of NATO? And the person is saying, I'm asking you, not your government. So how about first you, Nick?
Are you asking like me personally, or on behalf of all Ukrainians?
This is not me asking. This is a question I received, and I'm saying that you can take it twofold. So first, what's your thought personally? Do you want Ukraine to join NATO?
Yes, of course. It goes without saying. Yes, of course. And I would say that the support for NATO has grown up, and it's literally, I would say that's like a common space for everyone to say about Ukraine joining NATO. So,
how common? Could you put a percentage on that?
I don't have a percentage, but the overall, the overall sentiments are pro NATO right now. So that's pretty much it. I haven't seen the figure of like some, haven't seen it really, but I would say that from what I see and hear, the support of NATO is overwhelming, but well, mostly so.
So there is nationwide support. It's not just that, let's say, Western Ukraine and Kiev are overwhelmingly supportive.
Well, starting from 2022, there is no so-called Western Ukraine, Eastern Ukraine, and South Ukraine, and basically it's always been that way. It's completely normal to have some regional differences, because they are present in every single country in the world. I guess they are in the US, they are in Canada, they are in Germany, in France, whatever country you pick up, they will always be there. So that's it's not a big issue really.
Okay, are you ready for a provocative question?
I saw some provocative questions over here.
I've got one right here. Are you ready for it?
Okay, go for it.
Why, this came from someone on Twitter or x.com. Why do people love WW2? Why do people love World War II Nazi collaborators in Ukraine? And why should America fund that ideology?
Like who? I mean, yeah, you mean Azov, yeah, but it's like tired subject really. I don't even like need to convince someone. So if someone made up this conclusion from what is already available, I guess I won't help that, and I'm not really trying to convince anyone. I would say that there were some issues that the U.S. military aid was prohibited was restricted for for everyone but Azov, but Azov now receives it, so it's no longer a big deal even for the leftists in the U.S. government. So yeah.
Well, I think the question is somewhat touching on Azov and all the allegations surrounding Azov and alleged Nazi sentiments within Azov, and then somewhat touching on what took place in Ukraine during World War II and the current views. Like, a lot of people who are critics of Ukraine call Ukrainians, or some Ukrainians, Banderites. I think the question is somewhat touching on that whole notion. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all.
You know, I would say like in that style, like yes, like like chat guy, yes. So yeah, because literally I have nothing to say, nothing to convince, nothing to prove, like nothing. So if the person like wants to believe this way, go for it.
Is Stepan Bandera a national hero in
well,
2024
well,
in the eyes of most Ukrainians?
well, he is, but in reality is that he's not really. I mean, like now, that's the situation like from several time ago. Okay, so some time ago, like supporting Bandera, supporting all this stuff was more like the anti-establishment in Ukrainian sense of things. But right now, it's such a common thing that many people like don't even think about it that much. So it's more, he's just more among some other marked people within the history of Ukraine, and so we have new heroes, heroes of this war. So therefore, so it's not. So I would say that the popularity itself is like this ordinary, like for any other historical figure, maybe a bit higher, but still.
I have no idea if this guy is in Azov, but I did run into someone the other day here in Odessa who was in the military. I don't know what part of the military, and he had a white pride shirt on and lots of tattoos. I don't know if I can be able to track him down, but possibly. I did interview a former military commander in the Azov regiment. Well, you were the
it's brigade now, by the way. It's not regiment.
So it's now changed from regiment to brigade. Okay.
Yeah, because it's much bigger right now.
Yeah, and you were the interpreter for that interview, which you can find on my channel from back during the beginning of the war. Maybe we could revisit that.
I would say
in the future.
I would put it this way. I think that either Finland or Estonia have the the official military patch which has swastika, by the way, so you can look it up if you want to. So it's completely legal, by the way. So just say, and it's real swastika. It's not like some kind of a variation or whatever. So it's like the swastika, but some other shape, let's say, but still. Yeah. So
okay, what question in the chat would you like to answer?
Drop many of them. I'm trying to respond to whatever I see.
All right, I see one. Hold up. How frequently are 16-year-old boys kidnapped by conscription squads?
I think that 16-year-old boys most likely not, because they cannot join even voluntarily, let's say. But yeah, I guess I would say that there were issues with the conscription. That's something that we cannot deny. But that's something that hits the support of the government and support of the system. But because this conscription system, the system of drafting people, hasn't been really worked out that well, unfortunately. Because I believe it hasn't been done because they believe that Ukraine gonna so that the war ends like much earlier than 2.5 years, so they haven't worked this out in advance, and that's the problems that we're having. Yes, and it brings some like heated discussion in in the Ukrainian society. So yeah.
Touching on that really quickly, the other day I was driving by the train station in central Odessa, and there was a line of cars, and I saw military personnel in the street checking documents, and I was told that that was essentially a conscription. Not, maybe, maybe conscription's not the right word, but that men were having their papers checked to see what their military status should be or something like that. Would that be such a thing that's taking place in the street next to the train station in Odessa?
What exactly? I just don't get
There
the
was
point.
there was a line of cars stopped, kind of like you might see for a driving under the influence alcohol check in some other country, but there were soldiers standing in the street, and when the drivers would get up
Mhm.
to the soldiers, they would have their documents checked. So was that for the purpose of potentially conscripting people?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I was told it was for, but
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
think
know for
so.
sure.
I think so. Well, I would say that the cheeseburger that I'm actually free to say whatever I would say. So when I said there are problems with with conscription in Ukraine, there are problems with conscription with Ukraine. It's all around the Ukrainian media, Ukrainian social media, so it's not really a big problem. I would say that we have even like just try to get me right. I'm definitely pro freedom of speech, but I would say that in our reality we have even too much of that for the war, because during the wartime, because Russian propaganda just wedges in without without real problems. So like easily, like hot knife in the butter. So like that. So I would say yes, and democracy doesn't go freedom, and democratic doesn't go free. I would agree with that. It is like it requires some discussion, but overall, yeah. Yeah. So, question for Nick: do you think Boris Johnson was involved in negotiations per Putin statements in Carlson interview? Well, and what my take and have I seen the interview and what I did to make it? Well, I haven't seen it. Yeah, but I've heard it a lot because it's all around the world's media. So of course, I've seen the highlights.
I think for those who aren't aware, we need to recap a little bit about what
the context,
may or may have taken place, so people have the context.
Yeah, the context is that in this February, I believe, Tucker Carlson took an interview with Vladimir Putin, and this interview went viral, and there were some very interesting statements. But overall,
well, the allegation about Boris Johnson, I just want to say it's come from a lot of places, different places.
Yeah, I know the context. I'll try to answer it. Well, my take of that interview that is in reality that I think that the whole world through Tucker Carlson saw how insane Putin really is. Just look at the way he talks. He talks like this. He talks like this. He's just explaining like this. So sane people do not behave like that, regardless of what you think about the politics, etc. He was just this guy is literally insane. And Carlson even and you can see the look on Carlson's face during this interview. It says it all. You're not really even required to watch the interview. You just can see look at his look of this face and make some conclusions to it. So that's the main take, because all the other is I mean, like everything he said, and that was bullshit that I've heard from Putin like a million times before. So it's not a big news for me. Well, I mean, like, I think there were some. They tried to have some kind of negotiation that time, but all the details are in the media right now, so you can like find them for yourselves. Basically, Putin wanted to accept the Ukrainian capitulation and all that. So, and of course, no one agreed for that. And as we can see, it's the way it was.
Let me reframe that slightly. So the allegation is that the Ukrainian government was going to accept a deal with Putin early in the deal with Russia, early in the war to end the war, but Boris Johnson, possibly upon orders from the United States government, came in, interjected, stopped that from taking place. So now let me reframe it somewhat. Do you think Ukrainian society would have accepted whatever deal supposedly was on the table back then, which you refer to as capitulation?
I'm not referring to capitulation. It's just fact. Just read what Putin wanted in this deal, and you will see this basically capitulation. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
well,
really quickly, what did he want?
Well, he wanted that Ukraine doesn't join the EU and NATO, that Ukrainian armed forces reduced to like 30,000 men without any Western weaponry, and all the domestic and some other domestic political demands about that. And of course, the occupied territories will remain Russian. So that's basically pretty much it.
And what do or what would most Ukrainians think of those terms?
I guess, as far as I can tell, no one agreed that time, and no one agrees it now. I mean, like any similar kind of deal. I would say that Ukrainians definitely want to much more, I'd say, just peace deal rather than that. Well, and I would say apart from the speculation that we've seen before, there is nothing but to talk about, because there are only rumors. So yeah, for the people who say that Boris Johnson takes orders from the U.S. government, I guess those people don't understand how the British politics work, because given how British is obsessed with sovereignty, their domestic sovereignty, and it's really, I mean, like, it doesn't make sense in any way, regardless of what the situation is. That's more than I'd say.
I think there's a question on fishing. Something about fishing and the waters being contaminated, or do you see another question you want to hit right now?
Take the jab. Well,
we already spoke about the vaccine. Can we agree neither Russia or Ukraine are as bad as the Taliban rollerbladers? That's a bit of a troll question.
Yeah. People are dropping D everywhere, and the authority says we don't know why. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Could you please clarify this? How's the fishing? Yeah, I guess this guy is trying to troll.
Can you touch on the fishing as I scroll through this?
Well, I mean,
how is the fishing?
I don't know. I don't do fishing, but some of my colleagues at my unit are doing that on the Desna River, without any problems. So that's pretty much all that I can say. And I see some people fishing down here in the pier near at the sea. So I guess it is possible, but I've never tried fishing, and it's not really my thing, so I don't know. Don't know more than that.
All right. The actual question was, can people still fish the reactors? I guess near the reactors. I don't know if you're talking about nuclear reactors or what, but this. Yeah, I don't think this stream's going to be all about fishing. Thoughts on the attack on Russian beach civil? We already addressed that.
I've already addressed that.
That was the attack about a week ago. Okay. Romika Annabelle just wanted to ask, are there Russian tourists, and how are they being treated by the Ukrainians? Are there Russian tourists in Ukraine right now?
I guess not, because they are not. Well, I would say that they are. Technically, they are allowed to enter by getting a visa and getting the permit, but in reality, it is not possible, because the Ukrainian embassy doesn't work in Moscow anymore. Well, at least for now, and even abroad. So you need. But there are some Russians here in Ukraine, some dissidents, some people who are fighting. By the way, because there are many Russians fighting with Ukraine against Putin. So if a Russian citizen wants to enter, well, he must be granted some kind of special permission to enter. So that's the way. But there are no Russian tourists now. in Ukraine. I can say that for sure.
I will ask a follow-up on that.
Mhm.
I know from experience speaking with many Ukrainians that many Ukrainians had or continue to have relatives in Russia.
Hmm.
To what extent has that been the case, or have Ukrainians living in Russia flocked back to Ukraine?
I would say that the most of the time there was some kind of separation, so the family got split, and it's more than a common case. There is even a documentary by the Russian opposition journalist Andrei Loshak about this very issue. I think it may be available somewhere in the, well, it is on YouTube, of course, but it is in Russian, so I guess it may have some subtitles for the foreign audience, that I'm not sure about that. But anyway, this topic is the topic is real, and it was researched somehow. And yeah, so generally there is a split, and I guess there will be. I mean, even people who had some relation, some that were somehow related to Ukraine, they either have to leave Russia or probably get assimilated pretty quickly. I mean, assimilated in political sense of the words, but ethnic as well, by the way. So, like that.
I was interviewing someone at the beginning of the war who was sheltering in a metro station in Kiev about the issue of actually multiple members of that family who were sheltering in a metro station in Kiev and talking about relatives in Russia and how disgruntled they were, and it was causing causing problems in the family. I think I might have heard that story from more than one person or family. Patrick Mate Me a Q writes, Patrick Lancaster is embedded journalist with Russian troops on YouTube. Are you familiar? Yes, I'm familiar. I haven't watched that many of his videos, but I have seen some. He is a pro-Russian journalist who's been, I believe, in Donetsk, living in Donetsk, or whatever, on the other side of the front. And I know he's done a lot of on-the-ground reporting there. I haven't seen most of it. I've seen a little of it. Any estimate on number of Ukrainians who have expired? I guess that's a polite way of asking about casualties.
I discussed this topic on during the radio broadcast on the radio station that Josh organized me a meeting with.
I'm going to throw a link to that in the chat.
I named that I would put it this way: the range of figures of Russian losses is given from various sources is pretty realistic, and I would say that Ukrainians. I mean, I would say that Ukrainian losses are around 100,000, like within the 2.5 years. I think this figure is realistic. It's very close to reality.
Sorry,
I mean,
trying to throw the link. Can you say that one more time? What did you say is the realistic figure?
I mean, the realistic figure of, the realistic estimate of Ukrainian losses, like casualty, like the KIAs, is, I believe it's slightly more than 100,000 people. I think
probably there are people in the chat. I see one saying more like 600,000. So who is completely wrong?
I don't know.
Or is it in the middle of this 100,000 and 600,000?
Oh, well,
not that it's a laughing matter.
Given the overall number of manpower is around 1 million right now in the army. I mean, like all the branches of the military, given it's just 1 million from various estimations, and given the number of Ukrainian army pre-2022 was like 300,000, it definitely doesn't seem realistic, because we have, like, really, when you have losses like that, it can literally cannot be concealed. Even in Russia, it cannot be concealed, because in Russia, by the way, it's almost nearing that number, by the way. So, and you can.
Okay, so that was exactly what I was about to ask you.
Well, I guess perhaps this guy was talking about the Russian losses, I guess, because
I
Russian,
think
I mean, like 600,000 is perhaps too much even for Russians, but with the way how they are waging this war, it's can happen like one day.
okay.
I mean,
So
one day in the future.
how many Russians, or how many troops on the Russian side estimate do you believe have been killed so far in the war?
I mean, the figures provided by the British intelligence, by the some other sources, and given the losses of equipment and vehicles provided by Oryx, which Oryx is literally the best source and the best verifiable source of verifiable losses of both Ukrainian and Russian equipment and vehicles. Um, I guess the estimates that were provided by various sources, including the Ukrainian government, are pretty realistic. So it's approximately 500,000 of people either dead or badly injured. Too badly injured to continue the fighting. So, given the Russian population, given the Russian the number of Russian manpower at 2020, at the period of 2022, and now it's this figure is realistic as well. But you can find lots of data on this matter in the internet. So you're interested in the Ukrainian losses. Well, my estimate is 100,000 or slightly more. I guess slightly more is realistic, given the very critical situation, especially for the situation within the late fall and winter of this year due to the delay with the U.S. military aid. So yeah.
I put the link in the chat to your interview the other day. Well, I thought I did, with Karen Veely of Calcos News, a radio interview in the U.S.
Yeah, it's
unfortunately, it looks like the podcast is not yet up. Maybe they're just lagging putting the podcast up, but it should probably be up within a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's somewhere else on that website, kprl.com. But I put that link about your interview in the chat. Clearly, we have some disagreement in the chat about these numbers. Nonetheless, I'll read Cheeseburger's comment, which is
Cheeseburger is no best troll.
One second.
Fun guy, but
Cheeseburger says both sides losing so many people, it's inhumane. Put the rocks down. That's Cheeseburger's comment. I don't know if you want to reply to that.
I'd love to, and many Ukrainians would love to, but talk about the other side. They are not willing to. That's the point why all people who want to somehow have some kind of negotiations or peace deal with Putin, something that they don't take into account. Does Putin want to put how it said, like put the rocks down? I don't know. From what it is, he doesn't want. He goes to various countries, gets agrees on some military supplies. So he's about to wage war as far as the manpower goes and the equipment goes, because manpower has never been the strong consideration point for Russian throughout its history. So, well, especially for the last 100 years, because in Russian Empire you could debate on that, because in Russian Empire there were some highly capable generals and field marshals who could fight well, but it's not like it's not something that in Soviet Union and the legacy school of thought of that matter. But still,
mate Nia Q, I see your comments and questions. I'll get to them shortly. First, what you're just hitting on was somewhat of a segue into a follow-up. I wanted to ask follow-up to previous questions or comments, which is that, let's say there is a peace deal. I don't really see one happening right away. But let's say there is one. Then, in your mind, does Putin and do Putin and the Russians use that to regroup, to prepare for the next phase of the war, as many have alleged, or could there actually be an upcoming peace deal that ends this war once and for all?
I guess the first option is correct, because that's basically what happened since 2000 for 2015. That's basically what happened. So they have enough time, enough years to prepare and to try to use as maximum political influence on Ukrainian situation in Ukraine. I mean, and around Ukraine as most of all, to get an advantage and uh, achieve their goals of. But basically, because goal of Russia is destroying Ukraine and other Soviet republics which are not in NATO. I mean, like, because the Baltic countries obviously are out of this, but all the other countries, because in Moscow they never recognized their independence for real. They never recognized their cultures and their history for real. Regardless of what you think about their politicians, regardless of what you think about their history, that's just the way it works. Putin wants a new great Soviet empire, the way it was pre-1991. Of course, with some with some exceptions, given because the Baltic states joined NATO. That's why he hates NATO and doesn't want any other countries joining NATO, because he understands that in this case he can't really attack those countries. Well, at least for now, because at least for now he's not really ready for fighting NATO. But who knows what happens in the future? Where I cannot be sure about that all the time. But for the time being, he's not ready for fighting the NATO countries. And you were asking about the
actually you just answered my next question. I was going to ask about a potential Russian, let's just call it, incursion in the Baltic states, or or direct conflict with NATO. But you seem to have already answered.
We may speculate that the biggest that even if Russia agrees to makes a decision of having some starting conflict with NATO, of course blaming NATO for starting the conflict usually, but if they want to, I think that as speculated, it may have some format of either irregular paramilitary means, like it was in 2014 in Ukraine, or I guess it may have a form of foreign intelligence interference, maybe like propaganda interference, which they are trying to all the time, but it may have some much bigger scale in the future. But I guess directly at the moment, no.
Okay, interesting question, timely question from mate Nia Q. Trump said in the debate, referencing the Trump-Biden debate that took place just a couple days ago, Trump said in the debate, if elected, he will end it, meaning the war. He will end it before inauguration. Do you believe that?
I just don't know. I'd like to know how, and because he doesn't say, he doesn't say how. He says that like I can and I will, but no one knows how, because all he wants like elect me, just like elect me, and I will say afterwards. But that's therefore everyone can only speculate. That's it.
Something was.
I wonder how.
Something was reported. I forget by which media organization, maybe more than one, that there were leaks coming out of the Trump camp. So take this as you may. Might be complete BS. Might not be. But in this reporting, and I'm sorry to remember whose reporting it was, they were suggesting that the plan, or Trump's plan, would be to pressure Ukraine by threatening to completely withhold weapons and military aid, and to simultaneously pressure Russia by threatening to give Ukraine all of the military aid it needs to overwhelm Russia and to easily win the war. So does that make any sense? Could that potentially work?
I don't know. Given it is some kind of leak, I guess it's not. If these,
and maybe not an accurate leak. I don't know.
Well, if these leaks are, let's say, accurate, and I guess it's more. I guess it's not. It's a leak of not a decision, but rather the internal discussion within the among the Republican sponsors, Republican activists. I mean, like top ranking. So for now, it's speculation too. So we don't know. I mean, yeah. But still, the biggest point is how they all are going to make Putin agree to some kind of peace deal, because I think at this point he's somewhat beyond. Well, I wouldn't say he's beyond rationality. He's pretty rational, but he's really stubborn on his goals, and his goals is well to let him stay with what he's told. So that's pretty much it.
Mate Niaku was also asking earlier about a very pro-Russian commentator, an American, Scott Ritter. I think you know who Scott Ritter is. You must.
Yeah, I guess so.
You have. The question was, do you watch Scott Ritter, U.S. journalist? I believe he works for RT or did work for RT.
No,
but,
I don't. I don't.
Okay, well, I've seen a lot of his stuff, but let's
leave
it at that. I will hand you the chat very shortly. I just know I think they all came from Mate Niaku, maybe not. There are all these comments about Israel. So I've explained this in the past. First and foremost, I'm in Ukraine right now. I'm not in Israel, so I'm not here to talk about Israel, although there are various military ties between countries, and in that sense, maybe there is some worth in speaking about Israel. But I'm not here to talk about the situation in Israel and the Middle East. But if you're not aware, if you haven't heard this from me in the past, it's pretty freaking obvious by my nose and last name. I'm Jewish. You might not be aware that I have family in Israel. When it comes to that conflict, I have a dog in the fight. So I treat it differently than I do other conflicts and other geopolitical affairs. And I don't do a whole lot of reporting and commentary when it comes to Israeli-Palestinian issues. At times in the past, I've chimed in a little bit, but I try to, if anything, tone down the rhetoric a little bit. But I'm not here to talk about Israel and Gaza and is Damascus next, or what's going to happen with Lebanon. So that's all I've got to say about that, unless you're asking questions particularly pertaining to Israeli-Ukrainian ties or how Israel and Iran factor into the situation and the war here. That's all I've got to say about that.
But you, in this case, yeah, you better to be specific. I'd like to talk about Ukrainian-related issues rather than the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's somewhat off topic to our discussion. I mean, like, I guess I get it because we allowed you, and really appreciate all your questions and all your commentary. But you know, it's somewhat. I mean, like, it's somewhat off topic to the main deal. Yes, but so I don't know if you.
Okay, well, let's get back to questions that are on topic, or a comment. Crackshot 322 says Eastern Ukraine is historically Russian. I'm gonna give you the floor to react to this in entirety. Eastern Ukraine is historically Russian. The USSR fell apart and the former Soviet state turned into Ukraine. Part is Polish and part is Russian. The middle is Ukraine. Your reaction, Nick?
My reaction would be somewhat rude, perhaps, but
my guest. You want to be rude? Go for it.
But just learn history. That's all I can say, because it's really like it's the Putin level history. Just try better. I think you'll succeed in that.
Okay, so be it. That is that's responding to that.
I mean, like
having all.
Not like the statement is definitely not. Well, okay. Let's put it this way, okay? I just want to read it really carefully. Well, okay, even if it is like historical Russian, fine. Okay, let's presume it is. The USSR fell apart. Well, it's fact. And the former Soviet state turned to Ukraine. Yes, it is. But the Ukrainian state was recognized by Russia back in 1991, and Ukraine and Russia, like the post-Soviet Russia, has recognized all the Ukrainian borders, recognized all Ukrainian territory, recognized everything. Just even took the nuclear weapons back because they were always have been Soviet, and Russia, given this legacy Soviet state, they decided to take them back. That's fine. So therefore, regardless of what you think about history, regardless of what you think about it, so it doesn't it doesn't change the fact that the matter of fact that this war is illegal and unfair in every single way, especially for a post World War II situation when all the countries try to deal with the territorial dispute and political dispute and ethnic dispute in more civilized fashion. That's what I try to say. So even if we take all this for granted, this doesn't allow Russia to start war. Okay, it just doesn't. That's so, and all that other is speculation, really.
Crackshot followed up saying, "Speak about Azov." We spoke about Azov earlier.
And we spoke about Azov 2 years ago, and there was an interview, so we can check that
Yeah,
out
and I
as well.
said, I don't know, maybe we could, in the near future, revisit that interview from a couple years ago, but not right now in Odessa. Someone was, okay, alluding to Timbuktu, nice name, alluding to Timbuktu's question. Will someone in Moscow call in an airstrike to take us out sitting here on this bench next to the Black Sea in Odessa?
Why?
I'm asking that somewhat sarcastically.
Yeah,
Timbuktu's asking, or doesn't having all those lights on make you a target?
I would say that perhaps not, because it doesn't, because we need lights for our everyday life, but I would say that Ukraine, the overall brightness of Ukrainian, the brightness of the cities during the as seen from space is definitely decreased since 2022. So
Is it
so, yeah.
is it worth it for Russia to use a drone or missile to eliminate the two of us right now?
Well, I guess not. We're not the very important target for them right now.
Again, I was asking that somewhat sarcastically.
Yeah.
I would agree with your analysis. Earlier, mate Niaku was asking about someone's relationship. Whose relationship with whom were you asking?
I'd like to react this
Go
because
for it.
Crackshot 322 is a news commenter. So he's saying about be careful, George lost fascists in Ukraine. I could say that comparing to some other European countries today in this time, or even downtown LA with constant pro-Palestine demonstrations, I guess George is much safer here because we don't have that here. So I guess in this respect, he's well, at least at this issue, he's definitely safer here than elsewhere. I mean, in many countries.
Now you're trying to get me to speak about that conflict.
No,
I don't want to get into what's happening in LA right now. That could be another.
I'm not trying.
Video.
I would like to say that for here in Ukraine, we don't have pro-Palestinian marches. So
well, let me ask a follow-up to that.
Yes.
Are there any protests nowadays in Ukraine? There have been many large protests in this country in the past.
I'll say yes, because I would say yes, there are protests, because they are not of Maidan level, but still there are some protests. So for various reasons, and although they are not really allowed by the martial law, but people still gather, people still have some banners, people still have some shouting. So
can you give an example of one or two things people protest about nowadays?
There were plenty of protests. I mean, it's not protests, like a reminder for the Ukrainian government that there are many.
Yeah, we're frozen on the hotspot.
Yeah, we are. I guess we just check it.
We're still live. If anyone sees, if anyone's having any trouble with viewing us, I'm turning the chat back on the phone.
Yeah, please tell
us. Let us know if you're having any trouble viewing us. But continue, please.
Yeah, what I'm saying is there were some demonstrations preached like some time ago about for reminding the Ukrainian government that there are many people still in as prisoners of war uh, during in Russian camps they were captured in like beginning of 2022 and they are still not at home and they happened all like sometime all the time regularly, both in Kiev, in Odessa, and any other countries, just for a reminder to put those people on the priority because they are long-term prisoners already. And also there were some local government issues that there are some issues with the infrastructure, some issues with the. But yeah, I don't have that in mind because honestly I don't. I mean like there are so many very important vital news that I don't really pay much attention to that. But overall, people still have some opportunity to voice their concern, voice their protest and protest against something they do not like how the system works. So that's yeah.
Thank you for those commenters who are saying you can still see us. What I was alluding to is that we have the computer using the hotspot connection to the phone pulled up where we've been reading the chat, and unfortunately that froze. But I'm glad to see that we're not frozen, the stream is not frozen. So I've reopened the chat on the phone. Mate Niaq asks, can't Russia take Ukraine?
Well, I guess at the moment they can. They can't. That's and as a proof to that is that we are sitting with Josh right here in relative safety. I guess that makes the point. And Kenny PP asks, when are the F-16 fighter jets going to be in combat for Ukraine? There are, I think there's something that you could. I don't know more than you can find it in the media, but some say about by the end of this summer, but some say by the end of the year. But I guess this year is a safe bet.
Okay, Timbuktu asks, is Ukraine drafting grandma and grandpa?
It's well, there is. I guess we have some connectivity issues.
We're going off the phone, not the computer. Is Ukraine drafting grandma and grandpa? If that question needs elaborating, I could reframe it.
Yeah, I get it. So about drafting the older people. Well, there is the upper boundary of the age, which is like 60, around 60. I honestly don't remember that for certain, but yeah, I would say that even the average age of the people drafted is around like 40 years old because there are many. Well, first of all, because due to the demographics, the older people are more like 40 plus people rather than younger people. Okay, and yeah, so they are really drafted and on common terms, and yeah.
How is that average conscription age impacting the Ukrainian military?
Well, depending on where you get assigned to and where you are deployed, in combat situations, I would say that the age is a factor, and given that many 40 plus people are often not in their best physical shape, it brings some additional problems. But shape is something that can be like achieved in shorter time if properly motivated. So yeah, but yes, it is an issue. Yes, I would say. I would say Russia deals no better in this matter. They have the same issue, by the way. So, just saying.
Revisiting the previous question about could Russia take Ukraine, and you responded that we're sitting here. Since I was last in Ukraine, which was December 2022, it's been a year and a half. How much territory has Russia taken since then?
I would say that thanks to the guys who didn't want to help Ukraine, Ukraine lost some territory this year due to the constant, like 2-year-long assault in the eastern Ukraine. So Ukraine lost Avdiivka, Ukraine lost some other, well, not so significant places, but still. So Ukraine still lost some territory, but not critically, to be honest. But that's pretty much it. So even in this large-scale skirmish in Kharkiv region, which started 2 months ago, is like reached this dead end point, and there's no significant advancement over there. Even Ukrainian forces are actually advancing in that region, so they are planning to cut the Russian Russian troops from key logistics points, from key places, and probably to to set the complete control of Vovchansk, or basically what is left from Vovchansk, because Vovchansk is completely destroyed during this battle, by the way. So yeah, I would say it's not critical, but yes, Ukraine lost some territory.
There had been a lot of talk about something you and I discussed when I was in Chernihiv in December 2022, which was a potential Russian re-invasion from the north, or a new potential, which some people thought was going to manifest around this Kharkiv situation a couple months back. You're still stationed up in Chernihiv.
Yes.
It's not right by Kharkiv, but
yes, it is in the north. Yes.
Like, what chance is there of a new Russian offensive into northern Ukraine?
For now, it's very slim. So for now, it's relatively low probability, and it's not really a thing, because it has been implied that if Russia succeeds in Kharkiv region, they may attempt the same thing in Sumy and Chernihiv regions, in neighboring regions of Kharkiv. But apparently, as they are stuck and a tie-in situation in Kharkiv region, so they are basically have no resources to have any other even small-scale assault in the north. At the same time, we have some commando activity, shall I say, that some small groups are trying to get into, to do some like behind the lines operations, special operations, but that's pretty much it. So no full-scale invasion for now.
Switching back to the south, so right after, and I'll get back to your questions in chat momentarily. Right after I left Kharkiv, excuse me, I haven't been to Kharkiv since 2019, I guess, before the war, before COVID. I need to pay a visit to Kharkiv. But right after I left Chernihiv a year and a half ago, I came back down here in the south, and then I ventured into Kherson. And that was right after Ukraine recaptured Kherson. Since then, I don't see any Russian advances in the south. Have there been Russian advances in the south?
No, at the moment, no.
So I guess that's some context for those who are concerned that Odessa, for instance, is at risk right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, that no advancement in the south. There's also no way to have a naval operation and any kind of sea operation, especially given that how many ships they have already lost. And by the way, it's pretty much that's pretty. It's really impressive, given that Ukraine doesn't have any significant navy, to be honest. But much of that fleet had to be moved from Sevastopol to Novorossiysk, and even to the occupied Abkhazia, because of the sea drones and the missiles. Yes.
And you're speaking on the successful Ukrainian attacks on the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, which I guess we could have brought up earlier when we were discussing Crimea. I want to get back to the questions, but hit this point, whatever it is that you want to say.
So what I'm trying to say is, given all this, the sea attack on Odessa and land attack on Odessa are unrealistic at this point. They are almost impossible. And even low scale, low tier Russian propagandist bloggers, they admit that, and they are very upset about it. They are not able to capture Odessa because Odessa is completely because Odessa is very far away, and they have nothing to do with that.
I see crack shot.
I need.
It's not working. It's kaput. We're gonna try on the phone. We gotta forget the computer.
Really,
I understand, but I'm trying on the phone. The connection on the computer is kaput. I'll relay to you what people are asking. So mate, hold on a second. Mate Niaku, I caught this much. Mate Niaku and Crackshot they view what happened in Crimea, the attack a week ago. They view it much differently than you. So Crackshot asked, do you support Zelensky in using cluster bombs on a civilian population in Crimea? Mate Niaku then replies, I asked that. No answer. Actually, we did discuss this. Do you want to discuss it again?
Actually, there was answer, and I don't want to reiterate it once again. But basically, what happened is the Russian anti-air missile that tried to intercept from Panzer or either Panzer or Tor SAM system tried to intercept the Atacams missile. Atacams is the tactical ballistic missile. They tried to intercept it, but they failed to do so, and they launched the missile, the SAM missile, and when SAM missiles misses the target, it self-destructs within some time. So therefore, that was just self-destruct. And even Russian Ministry of Defense officially, by the way, they confirmed that there was a attack on their SAM system. So basically, this Atacams missile tried to hit their entire defense, which was located over there, and they tried to intercept this missile, and they failed to do so. I would like to say that it's very difficult to. It sounds very convenient. It's just facts. So you can just fact check it if you want, but or believe whatever you want to believe. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm just saying the way it is.
Okay.
If I don't know if I don't know something, I say I don't know. If I'm sure about something, I'm telling about something for sure. Yes. So that's pretty much it. Don't want to reiterate it the third time again.
Okay.
We discussed it earlier.
I saw a question from Romika Annabelle. What happens to the Ukrainian men who do not want to fight in the war?
You mean who are already in the military and they don't want? But
I don't think she's specifying. So first, that they're in the military and they don't want to fight. What happens?
Well, I guess it's somewhat different depending on either like avoiding conscription, being drafted, or while being in the military, because it's completely different.
Okay, we can talk about avoiding conscription also.
Well, because avoiding conscription, yeah, that's.
Now she says the ones who get drafted. She wants to know what happens if someone gets drafted and they don't want to fight.
I would say that I'm really not sure. There are some disciplinary charges for that, but I honestly don't know. And I would say that, well, of course, some people are deserters, so they don't want to fight and run away. It's a completely normal thing in every single army, in every single war, during any war. So it's nothing too special about it. I don't know the rate and quantity of deserters in the Ukrainian army. I really don't. I don't know any figures, and they are not disclosed for obvious reasons. But I would say that it's not really common. I mean, like, so if you don't want to fight, you can try to get transferred to some other place, but it still doesn't give you any kind of guarantee or that you don't go there. So I really don't know about this. I have nothing I can say.
I'm working on getting the chat pulled up on that phone. I'm sorry about that. I'm speaking to Nick right now. I'm gonna.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, scrolling back a ways, we have. Oh, we already addressed is Ukraine drafting grandma and grandpa. Is 18 to 64 males and females.
Well,
is that correct?
Yeah, Well, 64. Well, 18 is looks correct, but I honestly don't remember like for by memory. I have to look at the top. I'm sorry. I don't
I
really
think it
know.
might have changed recently.
Well, it
Oh, let's address the female part. I know there are a lot of people in the
well
U.S. who are I don't know if you should call it an allegation or are raising concerns about women serving in the Ukrainian military. How would you address
well.
that?
First of all, I would like to say that there are somewhat enough women as who are volunteers. So so basically women are drafted on the voluntary basis. So basically, so it's not like in Israel where it is 100% duty for for every woman to serve. So here women have this liberty to join the military voluntarily, and often I have to admit that often it's not the combat positions. So it's often they are either in the medical service, or and sometimes medical service can be deployed in the field. But often they have more like staff job. They have some other like supplementary jobs, but very not all of them are fighting in the lines, but some are, and but it's not really common for obvious reasons. So in this case, it's more like traditional gender roles, if you want.
Nick, I have a present for you.
Really?
This wasn't easy, but
Oh,
I've got the stream pulled. I'm handing Nick a second phone that's got the stream
yeah,
pulled up, and he
it's
can
much
he
it's
can look
much
he
better
can look
like
at the
this.
chat that way. Okay, this is a perfect question that we thought we might make a separate video about this. Mate Niaku asks, Pride Month in Odessa? LOL. I doubt.
I would say there was the Pride March in Kiev for uh, like like a week ago or something, but it lasts I would say like 30 minutes or something. So they marched like 100 yards or something. So it was more like symbolic. Yeah, but still, I have to say that I don't know what is the majority of the viewers, what's their political views, but I would like to say that Ukraine is generally not really woke countries, regardless of what many people think or say. In reality, well, Ukrainian society is generally more tradition-like. So these things they are present, they are tolerated. I mean, like being a member of the LGBT community, but overall it's something that's not. It's still, well, I wouldn't say it's really uh, disdain. It's not really supported, but still it's not really prominent either. So most people here, they have like traditional relationship, traditional family, etc., etc. So in this case, it's something that doesn't have much support. And yes, so they definitely, some organizations, and there are many of them, plenty of NGOs, they're trying to have some pride parades, and this happened like years prior to the full-scale invasion 2022, and those parades were somewhat numerous. I mean, numerous in quantity, but I would say it's still not really really popular here. Let's put it this way.
But at the same time, the police don't swoop in. Like, for instance, often occurs in Istanbul. The police don't swoop in and break up the pride parade, do they?
Yeah, I would say that they are trying to keep the those who do not support the pride parade away from those who are trying to make the parade. So that's the way it is. And of course, the all the organizations who are opposing the pride parades, they are very upset about it, but that's the way it is. So yeah.
All right.
I'm just saying the way it is. So Ukraine isn't really a woke country the way you think about it. So I would like to say, in terms of culture, many people definitely do not support the woke agenda in media. Okay, so yeah, I would say, well, oh, come on, this one, the Timbuktu. Yeah, the Ukraine war is nothing that we can afford. Well, for Anglo-Saxons to be Slav and Slav, but if we look back in history, Germans fought Germans. If we consider English as Germanic people, which is basically the way it is, they fought quite a lot, really. And also, we can say that French and the French originally were split from the Karl the Great Empire, and they can technically be considered Germans with the Roman influence, but they still fought Germany like throughout their whole history. So I would say that Slav is Slav. It doesn't really matter. Besides, Ukrainians fought with Poles. Ukrainians fought with other Slavic countries, and so it does really matter. Like Slav and like Slavic people fighting each other. So it happened. It happened throughout history within like Germanic people, like Romanian descent. So Arabic, etc. It's not really a valid argument in this matter.
You want to take a look at the chat
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just
on your new device?
yeah, but
It's not so new of a device. Earlier, I missed.
yeah, Russian Ukrainian men know what a woman is. I guess so. I would say that in many countries they do, because I would say that regardless of what the woke agenda is trying to be, is being promoted throughout the Western world, we see that it's still not really accepted everywhere. So I guess that there will be some kind of the pendulum swing to the other way. So it's something that keeps me a bit optimistic about that.
Going back a ways, I don't know if you're still watching Jeff Specht, but I just want to say thank you for that comment. Specht Solutions on YouTube, who is Jeff Specht, says thank you for your information. He's addressing you, Nick. Thank you for your information.
I don't
And thank you for serving and it's from a while ago. I just didn't address it at the time. Thank you for your information. Thank you for serving and protecting our friend Josh.
Yeah,
he's addressing that to you.
Honored to do that. I'm not doing anything significant really, but thanks anyway.
So thank you for your support, Jeff Specht of Specht Solutions. Do I need protecting here? I don't know, but if I go into, let's say, Kherson, I meant to ask you that Kherson is still being shelled, right?
Yes, that's right.
So if I were to return there, Ukraine still controls the city, but I might not have so pleasant of a stay, let's just say, right?
Not only the city itself, but the right bank in general.
Which is, I don't know if we should get back into territory, but that's pretty significant. Russia claims, for what it's worth, the entire Kherson region as part of Russia right now, but on the ground, the city and right bank are clearly not.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm just saying, it's
that's
with
right.
regard to territorial disputes. That's kind of a significant matter.
Yeah, here the Supreme Court does know. Yeah,
it's talking about the U.S. Supreme Court.
I know. It all makes me very sad, but for real, I don't know. It's really very painful topic for me. That all this stuff that happening on this issue in the U.S. It's crazy, but when something we may discuss a bit some other time, I guess.
I don't know how much longer I will be here, mate Niaku. Speaking of which, I'm just noticing the time and realizing it's 20 minutes till curfew begins. From what I hear, not everyone is following curfew nowadays, but I don't want to risk that.
Have we answered all the questions from those notes, by the way?
I'm gonna have to.
There were some questions in advance.
We answered all of them, but I haven't been checking.
Check it out.
My Twitter and other feeds. Can you hold the phone for a second? Sure. I haven't been checking the places where I posed those questions during the stream to see if more came in. But I'm taking a look at my note. Oh, my mic should. By the way, I just realized, has the audio been fine all this time? Because sometimes our mics might cross over each other. Yeah, I'm posing that question to the chat.
I guess given people are commenting like along the way, so I believe it's fine.
I was just realizing maybe we're sitting too close to each other and should be using one mic, not two, but I'm not sure about that. I think we've answered all the questions that I had in my notes. But let's see if I can check those places where
People are saying the audio is good.
Oh, I'm very glad to hear that. I really like these new mics that I'm using. I'm just not sure whether I should be using 2 or 1 at the moment, but I'm glad to hear.
Oh, by the way, the question have you heard about Russian subs and ships in Cuba? Well, I guess
Fair question.
I heard something, but I don't remember the specifics. Maybe you can clarify, or I'll look it up myself. Yeah, but definitely, I'd like to say that Moscow will be trying to set some foothold in Cuba, like in good old times, especially. But unfortunately, the U.S. today is not like the U.S. of the '60s, so the situation may be somewhat different and interesting, and I don't know.
That's essentially what the question is implying. There were recently Russian warships sent to Cuba, and they came close to the Florida coast, and U.S. military was tracking them, but it doesn't seem like anything huge came of that.
Yeah.
On this phone, I can't get into my other places. I'll try getting on the computer one more time. I don't know if that will work, but if you see anything in the chat, just go for it.
Yeah, I think I've looked through like literally everything.
How strict is curfew enforced nowadays? I kind of know the answer to it.
Well, I think if you get caught, you may spend some time in police, and probably if you're not from home, you can try to play a poor little guy, and probably they let you go. And if everything otherwise is fine, but in general, yeah, it's better to be at home in time.
Well, I don't want to play poor little foreigner right now, so maybe we keep the stream rolling, but we start walking.
Yeah.
And I'm trying. I don't think I have strong enough connection to pull up what I need to pull up on the computer.
I guess,
but maybe I do.
I guess we'll make it in time.
I think we'll be all right if we start walking. You want to speak briefly to the power situation here right now? I don't know if we got a question about that, but
yeah, we haven't. Well, the electricity supply today is scheduled, so this schedule is made up to maintain the overall flow and the overall stability within the grid network of Ukraine. So we have electricity, like usually it's more like, at least in Kiev, it is like 4 hours in, 4 hours out. So people got used to it. Many of them have electric generators or very powerful charging stations, like I do at home, so I can switch off any, like not any, but the necessary AC appliances. Well, appliances that use the AC power, and like a laptop or a table lamp or some desk lamp, something like that. Yeah, but of course it's very frustrating, and often if the electricity out, some internet service providers can have no internet, no broadband connectivity for you, because their splitting stations are not working when the electricity is out. But generally, it's for now it is manageable as much as it is. Well, about inflation, economic situation, yeah, I would say that situation got worse, and Ukraine is not the richest and wealthiest country to begin with, but overall it's not a problem to buy literally everything you want. It's not a big problem, really. We have good supplies of food and other stuff. So for example, I work out and I get enough protein powder and creatine and all that stuff that I want without any problems. So yeah.
What happened to the chat here?
I don't know. I think
we need to hit the road. That's why I'm pulling it up.
So the way we're gonna try this to do, I guess we're gonna start working right now, and probably keep in touch with you. But I don't know if you will be interested in that. So
no, we're not gonna stream all the way back to where we're staying. I'd rather not do that, but we'll stream part of the way.
I would say that Russia. That's an interesting point, by the way. Could you please open it up?
Yeah, here's the chat for you.
Yeah,
I will go back to manning the stream. You've got the chat pulled up.
Okay,
and we're gonna walk.
I'll respond. Yeah, I'll need to like have some light over here. Okay, just 1 second. I just get collect all my belongings and go.
I'll show you the Black Sea once more, but you're not going to see it very well. You're just going to see, you're going to see the black, not the sea.
Yeah, but you can hear it.
We're literally next to the sea.
But you can hear the water flowing, right?
Yes. All right. Let me know if you got all your stuff, and I'm gonna take a look at the chat myself. You're welcome, mate. Nia Q.
Yeah, I guess I'm fine right now. So yeah.
Okay. On that topic, I don't know if you already answered this. Romika Annabelle writes, when energy facilities have been bombed, are they being rebuilt?
Yes, they have.
How will the people deal with that in the winter?
Oh, winter. So winter is something that is very, very interesting to know, because the situation is really bad, and as long as this summer with the warm temperature and long days, it's not a big problem. But overall, we don't know what happens in winter. I hope they will find some solutions to that. That's all that I'm hoping for, because rumors say that the blackouts might be a bit longer. I mean, like longer, like for half a day. I mean, like half a day, like without any breaks. Like half a day will be no electricity at all.
I was here in December 2022, and that was not pleasant. It's dark, but I can see the steps. Oh, luckily we got that. Thank you. Yeah, I would say that even though there are a lot of blackouts right now, the conditions are so much more manageable than during winter. When I was here last, there was a lot of snow. Do you need us to wait for something?
I want to take a flashlight. Here it is.
When I was here last, there was a lot of snow. Had to walk slowly. And when there was no power, and sometimes there were water cuts back then, that was not so pleasant. I was noting that when I was here last, there weren't just power cuts, but water cuts also.
Well, water cuts can be independent from the electricity, because there can be some issues with the infrastructure, but generally the infrastructure is fine as long as, well, by Ukrainians, I mean, like generally it's all fine. Well,
but I'll just say one more thing on that, which is what you already brought up, that given at least here, and I think you were saying in Kiev, that these power cuts are scheduled, it makes it so much more manageable. If you know in advance when the power is going to be cut, it just, for me, it makes all the difference.
That's right.
You see anything in the chat you want to address?
There was something about the German that the West made. Where it is? I think because for some reason I don't see it right now.
I'll search for it also. This isn't a comment about pitting Slavs against each other, is it?
No, it was.
You already talked about.
It was about that the West made the Germany its the Germany its ally and Russia its enemy. That's not entirely true. I would like to say that many Russian anti-Soviet resistance, they found their place, their refuge in the US, in the Western countries, and yeah, we can go this way. Yeah, and they participated in discussions in Russian and provided lots of expertise in Russia. So and they always recognized those people, and unfortunately, they didn't have enough political power to help entirely split Soviet regime and Russia, but overall it's not entirely true. And I would say that's it was somewhat different.
Mate Niaku asks, are there sirens to warn about drone attacks?
Yes, they are.
And asking about underground shelter. Do they have sirens to warn against drone attacks? Underground shelters? ?
Well, I mean,
I don't know how often people use them at this point in the war, but
yeah,
you answer, please.
Well, sometimes the situation may be critical and people run to those shelters, but generally it's manageable. Thankfully, we have enough Telegram channels and resources to know what exactly the threat is. So, for example, we can see. Well, I can open it up and see what the threat is. Yeah, I guess
Now we have better lighting.
No.
I'm hearing sirens quite a few times a day. I guess more so at night.
I guess we go this way.
I think more so at night than during the day. But I'm hearing quite a few sirens, and usually, at least here in Odessa, when I hear them, I don't see anyone running for shelter or heading underground.
Yeah, that's true.
But I have been in more concerning
this way.
locations during the war, so this isn't, Odessa's not getting shelled, but I am hearing sirens quite a few times. And for those who weren't tuned in at the beginning, I did see smoke from an airstrike,
Missile strike.
missile strike, recent one here in Odessa. So that wasn't so far away from me, given that I actually saw the smoke after, and quite a bit after it lasted. Any other comment on incoming drones and sirens and taking shelter? What about in other parts of the country nowadays?
Well, pretty much the same way. Although I'd like to say at my unit, for those who are stationed, they all go to shelter because we are on the military object, and it can be a target, but very often it isn't because we're not really significant that much, but still. So we go to shelters when I'm at my unit.
Feels much different than when I was, well, you were there also in Kiev, the beginning of the war, when there were a lot of people sheltering in metro stations and underground. Now it seems like people go about their daily lives much more than they did back then.
Well, those places are still used, so.
Oh, hopefully I can visit Kiev sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
See what else is in the chat. We're gonna end this pretty shortly. Again, curfew is quickly approaching.
In like 10 minutes.
So it's not the optimal time to be streaming. Unfortunately, because of some technical difficulties with the new YouTube streaming setup, we started this a little late as I got really frustrated because I couldn't get the stream out of vertical mode and into horizontal mode, or out of portrait mode and into landscape mode. That was a little frustrating. You would have gone to see the Black Sea while it was still light at, although that's in the thumbnail. Maternity. Mate Niaku asked a lot earlier, maybe not that much
Any
earlier,
French NATO
but,
troops in Odessa? I honestly, I don't know, but I think if they were, we all would have known about that.
That aside, Mate Niaku was also asking about Odessa being captured soon, something like. I thought we already addressed that question. Was a little earlier, but
yeah, I think
we already addressed that. Let's see. Macron said he was sending troops. That's what Mate Niaku saying.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
I know about that, but it's just like statements and nothing in particular. So it's more like it's not only statements, more like the rise in the stakes, but in general, it's not something that has turned into reality. So yeah.
Okay, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. I think this is an optimal time to end the stream, given that it's about to be curfew here. Before we end this stream, do you have any closing remarks and anything you would like to shout out? Nick, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for the support, for the pleasant words, because I've heard enough. Yeah, people take care, please.
Okay, and can people find you anywhere? Is there anything you want to promote? I can add any link to the description once
I guess not
we're
at
done with this.
Not at the moment, not because I don't want, because I don't have.
Okay, well, you did appear in a live stream. Actually, appeared in multiple live streams.
Yes.
We did a live stream the night Zelensky was elected. Much different feeling back then, but yeah. So you're in a live stream on this channel from back in 2019, and in
like
December 2022. And then we also shot that video in Cherniv. I don't remember when I uploaded it. Maybe it was early last year. I forget exactly. But so there are a few different pieces of content on this channel that you appear in that we've referenced at times, so people can check that out. And I saw there were some final comments. Or a comment. We're walking. Sorry, it's hard for me to read. Eva writes, "Thank you both. Stay safe." Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, BC17Q. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. My apologies for the lack of light or lighting. Kenny, there you go. You're going to like this comment. Kenny PP. Nice name. Yeah. Thanks, Nick and Josh. Slava Ukraini.
Yeah, Heroям Slava. Thank you.
All right, so thank you to everyone who tuned in and participated, and maybe in the next stream we'll have fewer technical difficulties, although it sounds like you could hear us all right, if not see us. And I don't know where I'll be next. I think someone might have been asking about that, but hopefully I can do some more reporting from Ukraine in the near future. So thanks a lot. Any last thing you'd like to say?
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Thanks a lot.